D'Amico Ryans was on the Rich Eisen show over the course of the past week, and D'Amico was asked about the moment when he knew that CJ Stroud was special. Here's his answer.
I mean, we were in a big-time shootout there with the Bucs and Baker Mayfield, and it was a big-time shootout. And for him, right, they scored on us late in fourth quarter. They scored on us, and we have, I think it's under a minute to go down and score. And just to see the poise, right, to see the confidence and how, he led the offense down on that last drive, and for him to connect with Tank for a touchdown, it was that moment where I'll never forget it, right? That was the one moment that will always, stand out in my mind forever, right? It's like, man, this guy is very special, right? And most rookies will get flustered in that predicament. They would, try to make something up new or try to force a play. He was just so calm, right? So confident, trusting in the playmakers around him. And man, he delivered big time, and that was a huge win for us.
So you hear that, and you think to yourself, okay, I mean, that's all good stuff, right?
Yeah, all I'm thinking about in my mind is, where are we going with this?
Okay, well, let me explain. So, I mean, the iconic moment is outgunning Baker Mayfield in the Buccaneers in a game that the Texans ultimately won by 2 points. Then consider just how many games that the Houston Texans played last year that were one-score games. I'm just going to list all of them right now. A loss against the Atlanta Falcons, October 8th, 21-19. A win against the Saints, 20-13 on October 15th. A 15-13 loss to the Panthers, October 29th. That 39-37 win over the Bucs, November 5th, where you had that awesome comeback at the end. The win over the Bengals, 30-27, November 12th. The win over the Cardinals, 21-16, November 19th. The loss against the Jaguars, 24-21, November 26th. Pattern here, December 3rd, the win over the Broncos, 22-17. You go a little bit further because CJ Stroud gets injured against the Jets, doesn't play against the Titans, doesn't play against the Colts, to the last week of the year against the Indianapolis Colts where they won by 4 points. They found themselves in a lot of situations where CJ Stroud made plays at the end of some of those games, but in other games they were holding on for dear life. And I do think that going into next year with the amount of one-score games that they played, sure, you feel really good about CJ Stroud getting the ball last every single opportunity he can get. But there is going to be, I would imagine, some sort of adjustment because of all of those teams, who made the playoffs? It was just the Bucs and the Bengals of all the teams that they played against in these one-score games and were actually able to beat at the very end. And the Bucs, the Bengals didn't make it. We've seen them make it before. The Bucs, very underwhelming playoff team. I know that they made it to the divisional round, but very underwhelming team.
Interesting.
So it's just something to keep in mind. Like, hey, yeah, they were great in one-score games last year, but remember, they were going up against like Baker Mayfield in a lot of these games, not against the likes of Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, among others this year.
Yeah, I think it's like I trust CJ Stroud in a moment to lead the Texans to win a football game when there's 2 minutes left, when there's 5 minutes left in the game. I trust him to do that. It is D'Amico's side of the ball last year that was more often the problem in these moments. Think back to the Atlanta game. The Texans score. CJ throws a touchdown at Dalton Schultz with 1:49 left to go in the game. They take a 19-18 lead. Desmond Ridder walked down the field.
Desmond Ridder.
What? Remember, before the game, they were talking about him being benched for Taylor Heineke, I think it is. He walks down the field, and they kick a field goal, and they beat you. CJ, the Panthers game, I forget about that game and how bad that game was for the Texans.
But the Panthers had a game-winning drive.
Yeah.
91 yards. They started at their own 9 the last 6 minutes of that game, and they beat you.
That's brutal.
And it's Bryce Young. That was his best game of the year last year.
Yeah.
And look, they've added to the pass rush. This pass rush should be better. But just remember, like, the most iconic moment for CJ Stroud last year was a comeback against Baker Mayfield and the Buccaneers. They are going to be going into a lot of games against guys that are on an equal playing field to CJ Stroud, and we've seen guys like Patrick Mahomes with 30 seconds left score touchdowns.
I mean, and the other one too. Which one's there was the Tank Dell? Oh, I guess is that the Bucs game?
The Bucs game, or the touchdown with like
right.
2 seconds left.
I couldn't remember. It was Tank who caught that one.
It's crazy looking at the schedule now because from week 5 till 14, they just play a 1-score game every single week, and there's one bye week. But they just play a 1-score game down to the wire against Ritter, against Derek Carr, against Bryce Young, as we mentioned,
Baker Mayfield,
as we mentioned. Hey, Joe Burrow. Hey, Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence, and then Russell Wilson.
Yeah, and that was Kyler's second game back, first game.
Second.
I think it was second.
He looked good in
back.
that game. I thought
he looked good.
Yeah, that's why I think that part of the reason why they have chosen to use their offseason and the money to go after the pass rush in the way they did, because in these moments, like you're not getting to the quarterback. Like you're not making it hard for Bryce Young and Desmond Ritter to get down the field and score, because that was at the time where we also hadn't heard from Will Anderson in weeks. That was before he had his second half surge when things really took off for him at the end of the season. So you had very minimal pass rush. I mean, Grenard was good in chunks, but his sacks came in waves as well. I think that's why they invested so much in the defensive line this offseason, was because they knew that the way they played against quarterbacks at the end of games and defensively was a huge problem. And they had to address it. And if you can't get after Ritter and Young, to your point, what happens when it's Mahomes and Lamar back-to-back weeks?
It's just going to be tougher next year.
100%.
And look, I'll keep on saying this. You said it. Sean, you said it too. The defense is definitely better with what they added this offseason. But you're also going to be facing quarterbacks that are going to make it really difficult to win those 1-score games. You had the edge in just about all of those games over the guy that was on the other sideline. The maybe only exception was the game against Joe Burrow, where Stroud almost got the Bengals back into the game.
Yeah, that was the one he almost lost himself.